Hello again and welcome to No Recoil, the only Samurai Showdown podcast that we know of. I am your host, Scrub Cybot, joined by my good friend, Lab Monster, and resident Rimuru downplayer, Inazuma. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How have you been?
Uh, I feel like I've spent like 2 weeks trying to adjust to post Frosty's life, and now I'm just finally back to
Two
life
weeks.
phase.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah.
pile.
I'm a lazy guy, unless it's about Sam shows. I'm a lazy guy. I'm the kind of person I need to take a week, like my suitcase. After I get out
Oh
of
yeah.
the airport, it's in my living room for 2.
You're that kind of. It's kind of like my mom. She comes back and then just suitcase there for around a week. Around a week.
Yeah, yeah. There's so much. It's been such a crazy month for Sam show. There's like a thing every week.
I know. Been really exciting. Just right after a major tournament, and then we get the rollback, and then everyone is hopping onto this game during that period. Oh man, I was so excited. I opened up Steam charts. Absolutely alive game. It's like it increased the player base, increased by what, like something like 500%, something like that. More than that, actually. Hold on, let me see. Let me see what the Steam charts say. Uh, let's take a look here. 430%, 430% in the last 30 days, up from like
5.
January 2023 average player is 13, and then right now right now, just 14 minutes ago, as I speak, it's 124 players just playing. And this is like rollback's already ended, right? People are still playing, so that's good to see. And we
It
hit the
is.
all-time peak of 538.
It is certainly something, and I'm sure we both have our own thoughts on what the beta did for everyone, what it didn't do, what it could have done, and how it will impact things. I certainly was thrown for a loop. I don't know about everybody else, but we'll get to that later tonight. First thing is that we have some plugs to go through. The biggest homegrown tournament of the year will be hosted once again in Chicago, Illinois, from May 26th to 28th. And Samurai Showdown, for the first time ever, is an official game. Everybody and their mom and their mom's mom will be at this tournament. And if you're passionate about the game, I better see you there. It's going to be so hyped. Registration's open now. Give that a look at. I really, really want to see everybody there. It'll be great to see everybody. Dog tournaments are amazing, as I will also inform you of in short time when we talk about FF. But absolutely, if you're even like, if you have any involvement in this outro, you need to be at this. It's going to be absolutely huge. It's going to be an amazing time. It'll be my first ever combo breaker, so I'm really looking forward to it. Combo Breaker's reputation needs no introduction as a pretty great pedigree. But yeah, lots of stuff to offer from that. Lots of 29 official games, loads of side games for sure, special featured exhibitions, lots of vendors, all the good stuff. So I'll give that a look at.
All these tournaments sounds really exciting. And despite playing this game for years, I've never entered a tournament that's like just not like outside of locals. So it would be really cool if I could find the time and resources to go travel and go to one of these FFs. I know people have been asking me to travel to join tournaments. Not to be super competent, but at least to meet the players, right? I do want to meet, at least see some of you guys face to face. And but you've been to Frosty's several times, right? Like how many times have you been to Frosty's?
So Frosty 2020 was a little bit after the game came out. So the game came out July 20. So Frosty was January 2020. So by that point, I had like, I was sort of known. So basically, I just kept there after Evo. There was a bit of a fall off, obviously, and I kept entering Jeff's Royal Rumble tournaments, and I got a few top 8s under my belt. I was known for playing Tam Tam, which was like a more obscure character, and being kind of one of the reps with that character. And I noticed one day there was like some NorCal round robin tournament, and I got name dropped on stream, like for my Tam Tam play. And I was like, that exact moment, I was just like, alright, here's the thing, here we go, here we go. And that was kind of the moment I became like a known player or a known net player. And then I kind of kept doing pretty well, or mostly well, in Royal Rumble. And my big deal was Canada Cup 2019 was in Calgary. And the notable thing about that Samurai Shodown wasn't officially endorsed SNK World Tour qualifier or the World Championship when that was still going to be a thing before COVID. And I was thinking, you know, I wasn't really thinking about it before. Like, I was sort of considering it, but you know, it's a bit of an expense in another city and whatever, and the tournament would be that good. But it was like, you know, SWC, and that by itself got people from out of the city. Like, it got Jimmy Bones from Montreal, it got Andy OCR from SoCal, Chris G, Mr. Crimson entered. I know he was there mostly for Street Fighter, obviously. You know, pretty cool to have a huge lane like that. And then, keep in mind, like, I was like, there's a difference between a net play top player and an offline top player. Like, those are very distinct.
Right, of course.
And there's a big stigma of being like sort of a net play warrior. But basically, I went there and I had a big upset win against Jimmy Bones. Jimmy Bones at the time had won multiple Royal Rumbles. It was very much considered like one of the top. He was very easily like a top 5 player, right? So that was big. And then I beat Mr. Crimson. And then I almost beat Chris G. I choked a bit. But if I beat Chris G, I would have actually qualified for SWC because Score and Andy had both qualified at separate tournaments already. So I really went the distance there. Even though it was a smaller tournament, the interesting thing about Canada Cup was that it attracted competition that was very high level, which made the top 8 very high level. So only 31 person tournament.
Right.
At that point, I could have made my mark, so to speak. And then it kind of convinced me, you know, I was sort of wavy about the game at the time. Like, there were some things I had trouble adjusting to. Like, I kept trying to play the game like it was Street Fighter, and it's really not Street Fighter. And like, that was the point. I was like, you know, I don't know how I feel about Samsho. And then Frosty Faustings was coming around, and I always knew about it. I always knew it was like this sort of niche-ish but like high profile thing. And then it was announced that was also going to be an SWC qualifier. So, you know, I was obviously like, you know, I was pretty established in the game, and it's like, I've played a lot of like weird hipster games in the past. Like, I've played like Persona 4 Arena in its first year. I played XFXT and MK9, a lot of weird hipster stuff. And it's like a big tournament like this, and I happen to be sort of known, and it happened to be having a game I play as an official game. So, you know, why not? Even though I wasn't feeling so good, I actually thought I might not do it very well. I thought I might like drown in pools or something.
Why?
Because I wasn't feeling very good about my gameplay. Like, I just wasn't. I was getting really frustrated about the game. I was like making my play. I hadn't made top 8s or Royal Rumble in a while. I was just like, you know, Over the week before the tournament, there was a Rona Rumble, and I got 7, which is, not bad, but I wasn't one like a favorite. It was just, at the very least, it'll be fun. There's a lot of things to do with Frosty, and I'll see a bunch of people. I'll see about the game and how I feel. So,
And this is February, right? This is February 2020 at this point, right? Or you still playing Tam Tam?
that particular, the middle of 2020, January.
Yeah, because the big patch, the big patch, right, that actually kind of stabilized the game doesn't come out until April, so that would have been way after. So I can understand why you didn't feel because I mean even leaving the game version before the February patch. Oh no, sorry, April patch. Before the April patch was the game was still like a lot of characters that didn't work properly, and the thing. It was just before the first major big patch. And in fact, January, around that time, I actually took a break from Sam Show as well. I wasn't feeling in the game. So I can definitely relate to that.
I mean, it was... Yeah, so what you're referring to is the Season 2 patch.
Yes.
With the Mina release. It was quite a bit before that. And it was a month before COVID fucked everything up for everyone across the whole FGC. So it was very much the Shizumaru Reign of Terror. But,
oh right.
yeah, that was a thing. Sam Show has had an interesting history of balance problems, and I know people talk about Baiken, and Baiken's quote unquote Reign of Terror is kind of in dispute. It's like it's sort of debated. Shizumaru's Reign of Terror was not in dispute. That guy was a motherfucker. And
yeah, for sure.
if there was no patching, I remember telling people at Frosty's, I'm gonna start playing Shizu. If you're serious about winning a major, you need to play Shizu. It's just how it went. So
everybody was playing Shizu during that time. Everybody was serious. Like Didi Mokov, like Kizzy K, like there's quite a few Shizus out there.
I mean, in Sam Show per se, there's not quite a few people playing any particular character, even at that time. But it was, in my opinion, it was definitely the point, specifically in January 2020, where your character choice was starting to become a problem in the wake of having to deal with Shizu, specifically Didi Mokov's Shizu, right? Like there is definitely some big wins at events like Luderbout and FF and Hyperdrive. I think Diddy was a Hyperdrive, right? He beat Space. Oh my god! Oh yeah, that set, that infamous set where Space bursted at green and then Diddy he weapon flipped through him and then he tapped him at like 90% health. That's why you never burst green, ever. It's like the ultimate. Yeah, I think Didimo went to all those tournaments, and if you played, because there wasn't a lot of patches, but like there was a top 5 meta, and then Shizu came and drove a giant fort into all of it. So it's like, Andy got beat, Jimmy Bones got beat both at the China qualifier, Rona Rumble, and at Frosty Faustings. I remember Frosty Faustings, he just kind of threw his hands up. He was like, I can't deal with Shizu. And it's like, well...
Yeah, this character... yeah.
Yeah, that matchup, it was probably a 7-3 back then. There was probably 7-3. I don't think there's 7-3s now, but there was definitely 7-3s. Shizu was in the mix.
Yeah, because I mean, just both the tap and the SSM, those two moves specifically are just, that they have it. So because they have it on deck and they could potentially throw it out at any point, some strategies are just off the table. Projectiles, especially, he just can't throw it out without having the idea that you might just get blown up immediately. So you end up playing very differently against Shizu.
I always contend that float is the most screwed up thing about Shizu and the thing that makes him so. But he had a lot of privilege back then. Like, tap is the best reversal in the game. It's still the best reversal in the game. And it was semi-safe against some characters. And tap, if you whiffed, was not whiff punishable, which is like... You couldn't neutral jump tap. You could. But the only thing you lose is opportunity cost. He doesn't get punished.
Yeah.
It was like really, really screwed up. Because the way tap works, right? You can't burst tap. Tap could kill you, so you have to burst at like yellow or green or even worse to make use of your rage bar while tap is in deck. So it was pretty screwed up. Slide was really screwed up.
All right, nope, slide back down. Like everyone slide knocked down at that back then. So
you know, Shizu had like such a great active slide, like no hurt box in front of it. Just so active, and it still works like that. It's just the difference is that the reward is considerably less. He's more of like a nowadays. He's more of like a balanced like Pixie. Like he's not really great on the ground. He's great in the air. He's better on offense. He has like tangible weakness befitting of a high mid-tier character. But back then it was just like, man, like Shizu was the fucking money. Shizu was the bread. So yeah, that's kind of the story of the first version of the game. So I had a lot of work to do, and just I just wasn't about it, you know. I wasn't about it, and not just about the character balance, but about the whole game. Just trying to play like Street Fighter when it wasn't Street Fighter. I had a big issue with the jump system.
right.
It's the jump system in Sam Show, as I don't know if people have like realized with the beta or with playing any other games, is that not Sam Show jumping is very weird. It's not expressly bad to jump in Sam Show, and there's actually characters that are supposed to jump most of the time. Like, you know, you jump in Street Fighter if you weren't trying to jump on something and you jumped, you fucked up. That's the rule of Street Fighter. Like, you're gonna get crouch fierce, or you cannot assume someone won't reaction DP fighter. That's not how it is in Sam Show, because all anti-airs are situational, but jumping is only sometimes advantageous on block. So when you jump, you have these huge, like, exaggerated active hitboxes that are hard to challenge, but playing passive generally gives you frame advantage to reverse pressure. Like, you can't jumping heavy slash. Like, in 2019, people didn't really punish this properly, or like realize how to take advantage of it. But like now, you cannot max height JC all the time without getting stance broken.
Stance broken, yeah, it just becomes the thing. You just free meter. Everyone's so good at it, getting really good at it now, and just like, oh, you jumped and then you did it early. Anything, just like, well, free meter, and I knock you back and I get Oki. So
yeah, it's
like,
obligatory.
Jump at me.
Right?
Yeah.
It's that, or you just block and take your frame advantage back. Like, so you're like minus what, 7?
No. Speaking of that, I tested this a bit. It depends on your character, but even
so we'll talk about. I know you've done your stuff, but like we're gonna get to the science. Yeah. We have stuff for that, but yeah, you are significantly minus, and the only thing protecting from you as punishment is the strike invuln and throw invuln from a jump attack. But you're giving up pressure by jumping, which is not how it is in Street Fighter. Like in Street Fighter, I have a Street Fighter background mostly. In Street Fighter, if you jump and it was blocked, you basically got a tech throw. That's kind of like, it's very linear and straightforward. But there's like in Sam Show, the grounded neutral is straightforward, but like the jumping neutral is Sam Show, there's like a lot of consideration in intentionally extending your hurt box and not. And because you have no grounded recovery, if you do nothing, you can land and immediately go for a 50-50. You can immediately go for like an empty jump setup. You just do nothing. You can early jump, which is not safe, but many JCs are so hard to challenge, right? That you could just like chain JC 5 times. Especially with, like, Genjiro.
Some characters.
Yeah, with like Genjiro or Darly or Yashimaru, right?
Yoshitora.
That's valid, right? It's a big mind game whether or not you want to commit, but also because you can react to it. They are at disadvantage, so it's very, very RPS, very flexible, and it's not like Street Fighter where you crouch fierce for 15 seconds until some dummy decides to jump. That's not how it works, and you have to come to terms with the fact that's not how it works. And I had a lot of difficulty kind of divorcing myself from the Street Fighter mindset. So, like, I really wasn't feeling myself. I wasn't feeling sexy. I don't know. Like, I had good results, but like, I remember. So I played pools, and seeding at FF in 2020 was a little dicey. There was
suspect.
Yeah, so they did not go off any online results for one thing. And like normally I would understand, but like this isn't SF5. There isn't majors every week, and there isn't active locals that much. So a lot of the top players are taught by virtue of net play, and they just didn't consider that at all. So there's no Rona Rumble considerations, like the biggest weekly, for sure. So a lot of top players, people that you knew were good, were thrown into very tight pools. Like there was a really infamous death pool where it was like J-Dash, Rakir, Argon Ross.
Oh yeah.
And like 2 others. Like it was gross. And the pools were 13 people with like 3 qualifiers, so 1 in winners and 2 losers, so it was tight. I remember J-Dash didn't make it out. He's one of New York's best players at the time, and he was really bummed about that. You know, that was pretty sad. And then my seeding was weird because I was like the 4th place seed or something ridiculous, because basically just because of Canada Cup, that's it. But like the thing about Canada Cup, that was a 35-person tournament, but it was considered a quote-unquote major. And when they seeded, they went off this like ranking list that somebody went of like top players based on offline wins, but like that ignores the context of how big a tournament was, how significant it was, and whatever else. So that one major that was comparatively small really shot me up in the seeding, so it was very weird, and a lot of comparatively more accomplished people were under me.
I mean, this seeding issue, we still see it even in the recent Frosties, right? Like it wasn't as bad, but there were still some questionable. I think in the last podcast we talked about it briefly.
It was sus, as the Zoomers would say, but you know, we all sent our stuff to Elvin, and they were very understanding, and they made a lot of reasonable changes, and
yeah,
it was good. It was good by the time of the tournament.
Yes, of course.
So, you know, it's hard to fault them when they fixed it, right? So
yeah, of course.
Kind of what I heard from speaking to him directly is that some internal person managed it, and I think that's kind of why maybe they like weren't actively following. But you know, he asked me at the tournament, you know, how's the seating? I was like, it's pretty good now. I was like, okay. And I don't think seating was a significant problem. I know Pool D was
Pool D was the
hardest pool, but like one pool has to be the hardest pool.
Right.
It has to be. And I don't think there was like huge upsets in that pool. We'll go over the pools, but I don't think anyone got robbed, really.
No.
Yeah. At least, well, I watched most of the major high-profile matches, and the people that won deserved their win. There wasn't any shenanigans around. So yeah, I think all that wasn't really that much of a problem at this year at least. But 2020 was a little weird, and I remember I had to play Jacko in my pool, and I've always had a lot of issues with Darley, so like I was like really in my own head. I like played. Our pool was also it was a weird setup. So the first couple of pools were at like 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. and I had a 9 p.m. pool. And I like played all fucking day. I grinded like crazy at that tournament because there's so many people. And there's so many pool stations. And Frosty's, the great thing about Frosty's is loads and loads of casual setups are always there for every official game. If you want casuals, absolutely Frosty's has that for you if you just want to be a casual monster. So I grinded like crazy, and I probably played a little too much. Like I probably
burnt out.
Yeah, so like I wasn't at a walking distance hotel. That was the kicker, so I couldn't go back. I think I kind of just like stayed down about too much. And I remember I spent like a giant amount of time specifically watching Jacko's videos, which was like irrational because there's like 150 people in the tournament. Like I'm eventually going to have to play like all these people. I spent so much time like micromanaging like my plan for Jacko, and I think I just got in my own head, and I lost off a draw. That's the crazy thing.
No!
The second game was a draw. So
no.
This was another weird thing about 2020 Frosties that I'll get to, but like there's two separate instances of draw games deciding a game. So the first game Jacko won, the second game was a draw, and then we turned and we asked the judge, hey, it's like that means I lose, right? That's Evo rule. So he thought about it, like he wasn't sure. He was like, yeah. So that's a game for each. So I shook hands with Jacko. Good games. And so I was actually leaving pools from losers at that tournament. And then the other weird thing is that in the next set of pools, the next day, Vato had the exact same situation happen when he played Aru. So it was Aru was up by 1, and second game was a draw. So draws are more common in Sam Show than most fighting games most people have probably played, because Sam Show has normals with giant extended hurt boxes that do single hits for giant damage, right? So a draw could definitely happen in Sam Show.
Yeah. It's just over. Your box is overlapping down to a last point of health. It's just like, and the thing is like it also does the thing where it's like if it draws and then 1% one round up, like that person just wins it. So it happens quite often, but it's not always like an actual complete draw. But complete draws do happen a decent amount. So when it's down,
yeah, or like more than like Street Fighter, where it'll happen like in like 500 games. In Sam Show, it could happen once 100 games, or at least enough to the extent that at this huge major it happened twice. And then what happened was that Vato made a big stink about it, as Vato is wont to do, and his friends were backing him too. He has the DMV boys and stuff, and there was a debate. The official Frosty's rules actually don't specify what to do in a draw situation, because the FGC has like no governing body. Like there's no closest thing to a governing body, probably Capcom Fighters, but that's obviously does not apply to us. And Evo, I know people quote unquote follow the Evo rule, but that's not like a literal thing. That's like a courtesy, right?
Right.
A tournament technically doesn't have to do that, and Frosty's wasn't following the Evo rule set. They had their own rule set, and the rule set just done. Didn't specify anything about draws. And so they got Elven Shadow and they looked up the SWC rules, the SNK World Championship rules. They also didn't specify anything about draws. There's no... Yeah, so nobody knows anything technically. So they had Elven Shadow himself make the decision and he said, replay the match.
Oh no.
Yeah, so they just nixed that game. It was 1-0. And then Aru beat him again. He was gonna win by draw. And he won. He ended up just winning fair and square. But the interesting thing is that there's 2 separate rulings technically in the same tournament for a draw game deciding a win in Sam Show. That was very weird. Yeah, I should have. You should. No, I should have, but like I don't know, man. I'm not as assertive as I need to be. Like I just. Here's the thing, right? I played like ass. I was ass, so I kind of just like, I was like, you know, I'm gonna take my licks, right?
Right.
And but the thing about judges is that like, I don't want to sound like I'm being petty. A lot of judges is like the way FGC does judging. It's very like it's very shoestring. Like at these big events like Evo, a judge is kind of just a dude. A lot of them aren't paid. They're just volunteers, and like a judge doesn't have a supervisor. They're just a guy, and you kind of have to take their word at their local level or whatever level that they're doing the best they can. Because they're not on a payroll, there's really no accountability. So a judge in a lot of situations is a dude in a shirt. And I know that sounds very disrespectful and critical, and I know most judges are very upstanding people trying their best, but like I've had like local judges and like, you know, at various events over the years, Canada, Edmonton or Alberta has kind of had a sordid history with this kind of thing. Judges have shown up way late. They've gotten brackets wrong. They've like not communicated. I had a judge at a local tournament go up. He was clearly high.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was just like
excellent.
It was very kind of scumbag FGC that sort of thing, you know. Very, very grassroots, quote unquote. And it's just like, this is kind of a flaw with the lack of money, is that like a volunteer thing is not the same as like an employee thing. So I think a lot of these guys have less incentive to be super by the book, especially when you consider a judge technically should be watching every single game, but nobody does that. So when an issue is an issue, it's like, what's the accountability? Like, it's not, these are technically, there's money on these events. And a lot of money goes into people coming out to play. And it's just like, in that type of situation, it should be like monitored and measured, kept track of, so when there's points of controversy. And there was actually another point of controversy in our Sasha tournament this year that I'll talk about later, but technically a judge's job on paper is to watch every single match. But how many judges have you ever met that have ever done that? Basically 0, effectively, because to do that you would need multiple judges, and then you would need to have to pay enough attention to do that when a judge effectively is a dude in a shirt. So the judge, realistically, that we were dealing with, he should have checked, he should have talked to someone, and he shouldn't have just like shrugged and be like, yep, that's the rule. So that was a little weird. So that was a thing that kind of set sour with me. So as far as bracket weirdness, that was the biggest thing in Sam Show, as far as Sam Show goes at the 2020 Frosties. As far as other bracket weirdness, I heard some things. So I was just speaking to somebody at the bar. There was like an in-venue bar, and I was just kind of perusing with somebody. He said he was actually so his pool was rescheduled at the event. Like it was scheduled like earlier, and he wasn't like notified. It was for Tekken. He wasn't like notified earlier that it would be scheduled up earlier, and like you can delay things at a tournament. If you've done like any amount of TOing, like tournament standard time, all that jazz, right? Things go late. But it's like a cardinal sin to schedule something earlier. You just don't do that. Because how are you going to tell every person that signed up that they have to be there earlier? Right? They're going to get screwed.
Right.
So this guy's pool was scheduled earlier, apparently. This is only, I don't know, I can't verify this for sure, right? This is just story from a guy, right? Maybe he's wrong, maybe he lied. But he said it was scheduled up earlier. He got no notice, and he and his friend were literally in the ballroom, and they could have just walked over to the Tekken stations, and they got DQ'd.
No way.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah. That kind of thing is, head shaker. It's like Frosty's, even at that tournament was very fun. I know I'm sounding pretty negative, but it was a very fun time. Frosty's is a great, like, community fun focused event. But the bracket aspects, from what I heard, it was a lit spicy. And I also heard about some shenanigans in 2021. 2022. So last year's event involving power issues at some of the setups and other games. But I will say, keep in mind, right, an event like this, it's easy to say, oh, Frosty's has issues because whatever. Such and such guy on Twitter said they had a problem, right? But
what about 2023 though? Come around, like how did it feel? How did it go?
So, from what I could tell, everything went really well, and I didn't hear anything this time about a problem. But sort of the point I was saying about this is that at an event that is effectively 30 different tournaments, how do you know, when you can't be in 30 places at once, how do you know that everything went wrong or didn't go wrong? So I think things went very well this time, but I don't effectively know. So for what it's worth, for what I'm saying, I didn't notice any bracket problems. So if they did put an effort into doing a better job with that, from what I could see, they succeeded. And I didn't feel like that was a problem, and I didn't have anything. I didn't experience anything as far as that goes. Like, I could speak for Sam's show, and I don't know if you're watching this. Virgo from Chicago, I tried to find your Twitter at. I don't know if he's on Twitter, but that guy did an absolutely amazing bang-up job as far as the Sam situations goes. Like, he was on point. He showed up for Pool A. It was like, okay, this is the guy. He's not part of the Xbox crew. He's got to run the actual brackets. We're going to help people with the setups. But then I noticed he was the only guy running Sam's show all day, all 4 pools, and top 8. And Sam's show started at 11 and ended at like 11 p.m. 12 hours. Yeah. One dude, and he did a great job. So Virgo, if you're watching this, hats off to you. I really appreciate you. We talked a lot at the venue, but just kind of hammering it home. I gave you a shout out in my Twitter post, but I couldn't find you so I'm sorry. But that guy deserves a round of applause.
Careful, he's a hero. And how was the actual, like, the venues and stuff like that? Was it really nice? I only got to see the little corner of Sam's show, but what about the general feel of the entire event? The whole venue? You got to walk around a bit, right?
So for attendees, and I don't want to say content, but I feel like volume of setups and things to do and interact with, but especially attendees, this place was stuffed to the absolute brim. Relative players relative to floor space, this was the biggest FGC event I've ever been to. It was like staggering. It's actually insane how much progress Frosties has made and the reputation it's made for itself and how much it's accomplished in terms of player appeal and turnout. It was so crazy. There's so many people to meet. The ballroom with the Lilac, so the Lilac was mostly ball games or side games, and the main ballroom was mostly the Guilty Gear games. And those games were packed like sardines. It was such a great turnout. And when I say packed, I kind of feel like the event is hurting a bit for space. And that's definitely a point of criticism that by virtue of body heat, all the ballrooms at peak hours, this was something a lot of people mentioned. It was very, very hot. So I brought my flannel shirt. I try to get the Canadian drip, you know. So I brought my flannel shirt on Friday. That was a mistake. I took that off pretty quickly.
Yeah, I didn't notice that at all when I saw you walk around on stream. I was like, I couldn't tell that you had a flannel ready because in a t-shirt. Yes.
Yeah, I ditched that pretty fast. It was, I think so. When the rooms were not full of people, they were pretty cool. Like I remember it was kind of cold at one point, but
yeah.
So I don't actually think this is Frosty Faustings' fault, because I know it was similar in 2020, but Snapshot pools, it was mostly in like the corner of the Lilac ballroom. Oh my god, I was joking with Sugar Bear. There was like fire codes are being violated over here. Like it was packed.
Wait.
Packed.
You said it was hot, but I've seen Vato in his full coat and hat just sitting in the crowd.
Well, that's because some people are nuts.
I was like, it's hard to gauge just how warm it is in there. To see some people in t-shirts and someone else in like 3 layers and a hat and a mask.
Yeah, those people are just wackos. It was objectively hot. A lot of people. My friend told me, I was talking to my friend, like I met him at pools, and then I talked to him later. I was like, yeah, man, you were cooking. Because I'm Canadian, right? I can tolerate the cold. But I can't handle too much heat. Or I think I had like 17. They were very, very good about the cups of water. Because, you know, Evo has upped the water game. So the water hat has been thrown in the ring. If your major is not offering free water, you're messing up. So they were very on point with the water. I think I had about 17 cups of water on Friday. It was.
Stay hydrated. We might just stay hydrated, folks.
Yeah, it's important because, like, you know, I feel like people. There's something it's essentially a convention and a similar thing to PAX West, which I've been to a lot. And you kind of have everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth, and you like think you can do everything at these events. Your body actually can't, and people get super burnt out, and they don't eat enough, they don't drink enough. So having the water available was a godsend. They were very good about that in all the ballrooms. So I really appreciate that. But yeah, the body heat from the crowding is just from everybody, every single person I talked to, Sam Show or otherwise, and my friends from Edmonton. That was the biggest criticism. The other thing as far The other thing as far as the Guilty Gear Strive ballroom goes, because, you know, I really wanted at this tournament to make a point of watching Edmonton players play, because I didn't do that at EVO. And I felt very selfish about it. But, you know, there's a very high-level Strive player from Edmonton. His name is Mimokart, and he plays Viking. And he did make it very, very far. He got like 25th place. We were all like, you know, we gotta support the boy, you know, because Snapshot was done on Friday. At that point, my formal obligations were done. So I'm like, you know, I'm not gonna be a selfish guy this time. I'm gonna see the play. So I watched most, or like the first 2 of Memocarp's top 48 matches, and that ballroom around the pools was so crowded. I was actually getting anxiety, or at least a little bit of anxiety. Like it was hard. Like you had an inch of personal space at any point.
Really? That's like a concert.
Yeah. It felt like it was like Bumbershoot or something like that. It was Coachella. I don't know if maybe that's an exaggeration, but it was a lot. Like closer to the pool stations, I think every time you went to everywhere, I was like, excuse me. I think I said about 250 excuse me's over the weekend. Yeah, I can't imagine standing around those pools all day. I remember, Guillermo, that's my Mario he played his matches, and I ran into Tao, who was also in top 48. His pool station happened to be closer to the door, which had less people around it. I was like, thank Christ I can actually stand. Like, it was a lot. It was hard. And you kind of have to have a stomach for it. I've been around the bend, around the scene for quite a while. You know, these types of events. I haven't been to as many of these events as some of the more established, like, US players. But I have been to a fair number of these. And you know, Strive has attracted so many completely new players, like those Zoomers, right?
The Zoomers, Zoomers and their gears.
Yeah, you know, the Zoomer Strive players. Like for some people, it's their first ever fighting game, and kind of what I heard around the grapevine is that Strive players were like going on Twitter and they were complaining about it being so packed, and it's like, why wouldn't I play on net play? I don't want to deal with all these people. Very uncomfortable. And it was like, if you said that in 2012, holy shit, you would get murdered for saying that. Right?
I'd rather Netflix, see you offline, online.
Yeah, you get weird looks, but the times are different now. And
post
people
COVID era, post rollback era.
Yeah, you know, Strive particularly. It's very viable, and I play in a way that no previous fighting game has been, at least for a main game, and the way people interface with fighting games is a lot different now. So it's interesting to see how that attitude has changed.
So you mentioned that you did have some time because pools for San finished on Friday, gets to go around, and you know, Frosty's being Frosty has a lot of games around. Did you have any chance to just sit down and play something other than Sam Show?
Yeah, so I perused. So there's like a separate ballroom that had candy cabs, you know, the Astro Cities, right?
Oh yeah.
Sega layout. So they had those loaded up with the old man games like CVS2, USF4, Third Strike, Rumblefish. They had a whole bunch of dedicated like Sony PBMs, and they had Mr. FPGA consoleized setups for Vampire Savior and 5 Special and stuff. That was super interesting to see. It's very aesthetic, like a little tiny screen with a CRT. They had a whole room dedicated to that. So, you know, I hopped on the sticks for a couple of those games. What did I play?
What did you play? Yeah.
So I played Third Strike, and I played the guy who got 13th place. I've been like considering Third Strike, but the way it works is a setup. You can't, if you suck, if you get on the sticks. Obviously, I was gonna sit there and play by myself, but if you get on the sticks, somebody's also gonna want to get on the sticks. So this guy got on the sticks. He introduced himself, and he was like, "Hey, I got 13th place." I was like, "Okay, well, I'm sorry. I kind of don't know what I'm doing." So we played for about 5 games. He was like, "Okay, GG's man, I'm gonna go do something else." I was like, "Okay, that's kind of how it goes, right?" You know, it kind of sucks. Like you want to play, right? But the way it is, effectively, if you don't play, you're gonna be wasting somebody's time, right?
Right.
Because
who do you even play in that game? Actually, in Third Strike, who do you even play?
Well, the way it is in Third Strike, if you want to play a defensive character, Chun is pretty much Chun-Li is pretty much the choice. There's kind of no arguing with it, right? So
ever the top tier enthusiast I see.
yeah, how about that? So I haven't played seriously, but like I kind of fired up trading like Fightcade and like Collector's Edition training mode.
Right.
Well, I don't play Third Strike. I've never played a match on Fightcade, right? And it's kind of hard to be like that and then play someone
13th
who
place.
actually plays, right?
Yeah.
Third Strike's a hard game with a ton of history. Right?
Yeah.
It's just hard. It's hard to. You're not on the same wavelength. You're not really playing the same. So.
For sure. Yeah. One of those games. It's like you have to know a certain meta in it. If you don't know it, then you're just gonna get steamrolled.
Yeah, especially Third Strike with the parry system and stuff. Like that's something you need to use consciously.
Did you find your JD skills coming to play at all? Because I know the JD window and the parry window is actually quite close to each other. I think there's only like a 2-frame difference. Did that help at all?
I think Samsho JDs are like a baby shit compared to Third Strike parries.
Yeah.
I think it's like not even remotely comparable how it feels to Third Strike parry versus Samsho just defend. Like Samsho just defending in an offline environment under optimal conditions in the future meta, I think on-demand just defending will be a thing.
You have to do it. Yeah, it's already starting to become like if you're not doing it, you just, especially with characters like Hibiki, is like where you get rage, you're just significantly stronger. It's like the person who, if you're facing against a Hibiki player and who like Soro, who JD's everything. Oh, boy.
Absolutely, yeah. It's the rage arms race.
Yeah, basically whoever gets there first, right?
And it's the power of the stance break reversal, which is a great reversal for almost every character because of the invincibility and the knockdown.
Yeah, free mix afterwards. So, was that other than Third Strike, what else did you try out?
So, I was kind of wandering about and I noticed they had Soul Calibur 2. Like, there was a Soul Calibur 2 side tournament, and there were some setups on actual PS2s with brick converters, and there was some setups on desktop, and I saw some people playing on Dolphin desktop. I was like, and one of them was playing Link. I was like, hey, is like Link legal? And they were like, an official tournament guest characters aren't legal, but we're kind of just playing on Dolphin. So the real tournament was on PS2. That's what it was held on. So like there's kind of they told me there's sort of like a Discord scene for Soul Calibur 2, so if you wanted to search that up, you could. And I was just like, not like I've ever played. I played Soul when I was literally a teenager, because I was a GameCube kid, Soul Calibur 2 was the shit, just like for funsies, right? So I've never actually, I'm certainly not a 3D fighting game player, but I like this game and it's cool. And so sometimes you just play fighting games for that purpose, We're all gamers at heart.
Imagine, right? Press buttons. I just want to,
this dude's cool. Press some buttons. I like this game. Whatever, right? And I noticed Mayor Park was playing. Mayor Park from the Samsho scene, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was
on.
He happened to be on the sticks. So I was like, hey, you want to play? So I played him, and he dogged me 30 straight games.
Oh no!
No, I mean it was fun. Like every game I picked Nightmare.
Oh yeah.
I was like, this dude's edgelord and he's got a big spear, and I found some buttons. He has the big smashing overhead swipe, and he has the big lunging stab, and he has the side swipe. And it took me 5 games, but I realized Soul Calibur 2 has a block button. So
it doesn't matter if you wait. It doesn't matter if you wait. What? Okay, when you say there's a block button, like what? Like why is that? Like so what? Like explain it. Why is that? Your mix don't work if you press the hold block button.
It's like Mortal Kombat. You have to hold down a block button.
Right. So, but like, why is that an issue though? I guess
it's just something to think about. You have to hold down a button while holding on other buttons. That like affects your like dexterity, right?
Right. After getting a smoke through you turn to him and say, "See me," as I just said.
No, I mean, I think of those situations, there's not much to say. Like, it's just how it is. I think most people that have been playing fighting games for a long time and they go to a tournament, it's just like, if you're a 10-0 just means the other guy happens to be above you by that much, right? Everybody's 10-0
Right.
somebody, everybody's been 10-0. There's just not much to say. You just say, hey, thanks, GG's, and then you just walk off, right?
Shake my hand.
Yeah, or just, it's just, I feel like the people that are weird about it are the younger people. Most people in their late 20s are just like,
whatever.
there's like a shared understanding about how things go, right? And nobody that's been around is going to be weird about a 10-0, right? It's just how it is, right? Shake hands, go off, so that's just how it was, and it was fun. I'm glad I played it. Like I said, the way this thing works, it's like a convention effectively, and you can't, there's so many cool games. Like, I was watching briefly Fighting Herds and Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl, and those are very like low traffic or underground games, and I was watching the top 8s for both of those games, and I was like, both these games are pretty cool. It'd be interesting to play. But I only watched them briefly because I was doing other things, and it's like, there's 40 games, and you want to see and play all of them. You just don't have time, and that's kind of just how it is, unfortunately. Right? You have to pick and choose. Yeah, it's like picking panels at a convention, right?
So many things you want to do the whole time, unfortunately.
Yeah. So I got my fill at Soul Calibur. That was the most casual mashing at the sticks, I feel.
Oh yeah.
And I'm satisfied with that. So that was most of my non-Samsho content.
And how was the there was a artist alley kind of deal there, right? Like they're selling merch and stuff.
Yeah, so there's like a whole row of people, and they have the little booths. And it's like any convention. It's like you can walk up, take a look. I'm not like in vogue with the artist scene or whatever. So the only person I was specifically looking for was Altamia. I don't know if you know who that is. She's like a East Coast artist. She does a lot of kind of these like chibi-ish fighting game illustrations with a lot of SNK stuff. And she does like stickers, and she also sells some plushies and some cool shirts. Like, that Nako shirt, the plastic glove Nako shirt I was wearing at Looterbout?
Oh yes, that was a nice shirt. They did that?
Yeah, that was made by Saltamia.
Oh, that because that's a really cool shirt.
She's just really unique kind of.
Would you happen to know her Twitter handle on the top of your head? Just give her a shout out.
Should just be Saltamia. As salt, the word salt, not I. Geez. A-M-I-A-M, salt, A-M-I-Y-A, Saltamia. If you want to check out her stuff, you can see her there. So, I heard she said she was going to be there, and I didn't see her there, so I don't know if something happened. Like, that was the only artist I was, like, looking for. And then everything else was just like, I'm going to walk around, see what looks cool. So I bought a whole bunch of charms, like too many charms. I bought like 7 of them. So now so like all my different like keychains, like my house keychain and my work keychain are all charms I bought from Frosty.
What they look like? Were they Samsho characters or what?
So let's see. Of all the ones I have here on the top of my head, I have a Neckark charm. You're not gonna get the Neckark memorabilia. at the anime tournament. I don't care about multi-blade. Well, I love neck art. So.
I think a lot of people share the same sentiment. When Neko Art dropped on Multi, I was like, I'm not gonna play, but I'm gonna turn on the game just to play this character in training mode, just because.
Neko Art transcends the FGC, much like
It's just the
LTG.
barriers. Yeah.
So,
Well, Neko Art speaks to all of us, the ship posting fighting game player and all of us.
yeah. E-sponsor. So I got one of those. I got that one ducky Pokemon and then Quaxel. Is it?
Oh,
it's
no.
called. I got one of those. I have a keychain. You know, I used to be pretty into FF14. I have a Grahatia keychain. From the same seller, I got a Dark Magician Girl. A crying chopper meme, you know, crying chopper.
Oh yeah.
So I have a charm of that, and then from a different seller, I have a Kimberly SF6. She's kind of jumping and she's doing the little sound wave that she gets when she owns the level 3 critical art. And then the last one I got was from one seller with a lot of Guilty Gear stuff. I got a Faust and a Baiken. And then
Makes sense. Yeah. You make Baiken.
yeah, I mean, as a character, honestly, like personality, I don't like Baiken that much, but you know, I play her in Sam Show, so it's like an identity thing.
Right.
And then Faust is like my actual favorite Guilty Gear character, like
Oh really?
yeah, like personality wise and everything.
Oh
like,
yeah, for the brief period that you did play Strive, you played Faust, right?
I played Axel. I was thinking about Faust. Just I don't know. I'm like a fake Guilty Gear player, you know. I'm like one of those guys. He says they play, and then they just mess
They
around.
don't, but they don't. Yeah.
Yeah. But in like a
Same.
messing around capacity, Faust is like my favorite Guilty Gear character.
He's pretty sick.
He is pretty cool. He's like the funky zoner dude with the big normals. So.
Do you like
Yeah.
RNG in your fighting game character? Because I feel like you're that's just me, but I feel like you like consistency in your gameplay, but Faust is anything but consistent in terms of what he should be doing at any given point, right? It's kind of, that's his whole shtick, right? Like being random, like oh I got this item, so I gotta play this way right now, right? Like is that your kind of character?
So
If you played Guilty Gear seriously.
I'm gonna be like a faker here and act like I know about Guilty Gear. But from what I see about Faust, it seems like he has really consistent tools. Even if you ignore the items entirely, like he has the 2K, the layer low, the 3-hitting low. He has the scalpel normals and stuff, right? And it's like there's enough consistency that like the randomness of the items is not like a make or break, and the decision to rely on the randomness of the items, because you can get really, really good items like the Meteor, right?
Oh yeah.
It's like that itself is a deliberate decision. So
Winning a jackpot.
yeah, I don't feel like if you get a bad item, that's your fault, right? Like you made an invested decision in the fact that you could get something here, or you could not get something here. In the same way, you made an invested decision that like you frame trap, tick, throw, and they could neutral jump you and damage you for a lot, or you could get throw loops or whatever, right? That's kind of how I feel about it. So I think it's like calculated random, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean those. It's always one of those like organized chaos kind of deals. It's like the lab monsters actually enjoy that kind of thing. Like it's random, but not really. I know what to do in every situation. You look at the top Faust players; they're always like that. So, moving on. Outside of Frosty Fausting, did you wander around doing stuff in Chicago?
So Frosty's is in Lombard, which is outside the city limits. It's like a separate town and like kind of like a separate municipality in the general greater city area. So it's not really in proximity to anywhere where people can just like walk around and sightsee, and that's also not really the purpose of the trip. Like, I feel like the tournament where people go to like see things or like to embrace the city itself is Evo. I feel like most people go to Evo and they do at least some Vegas things, partially because Evo is always at resort hotels that are in close proximity to the strip, and also because things to do and see in Vegas are mostly like see the casinos, gamble a bit. It's not like a huge sightseeing city. It's more of like a experience city. You can get that experience pretty quickly. But like Chicago landmarks and stuff, that's kind of not what people were really there for. So I didn't really get much of that. The only thing is that I really regretted this in 2020, but I did not get any Chicago deep dish 2020. And this tournament, I rectified that because I had Lou Malnati's on 2 separate nights.
Oh,
we had the last Supper of Sam show on Saturday, the last official day of the tournament. We had a big deep dish order for all the TOs and the players that were around. We had about 12 people. We made a little makeshift table in the Nintendo Switch room. Made makeshift plates with paper towels from the bathroom, and we had the last Supper of Sam show. So that was great. And then my Edmonton friends on Sunday, they mentioned, they wanted to do their little deep dish run together. So for that one, we actually went out to a Lou Malnati's restaurant because, there's the famous Lou Malnati's in the center of the city, and then Lou Malnati's is also a chain in the greater Chicago area. So while you're not at the real Lou Malnati's per se, you're at like a Lou Malnati's. It's in Lombard. So we cabbed there. We had a nice dinner there. Had the patented Lou Malnati's butter crust deep dish.
What kind of pizza did you get?
So we had a basic pepperoni. Like, deep dish is kind of not too crazy with the toppings.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. I'm gonna look at the menu. Lou Malnati's. We had like a basic pepperoni, and then they have one called the Lou. We definitely had the Lou.
What's in it? If they have the ingredients list.
Let's see, Chicago. Let's see. Deep dish. The Lou. Spinach, mushroom, sliced Roma tomato, mozzarella romano, cheddar, on garlic butter crust. That's what we had.
Oh.
Yeah, it's good.
Oh, that sounds good.
It's decadent, and deep dish is very regional. You can't just, most places like where I live, you really can't just order a deep dish. Like, you have to make it yourself, or you have to be in Chicago. So
gotta have it done right.
yeah. It's a very specific flavor, and I'm really glad I got to experience it.
I'm jealous. I love pizza. Actually, you know what? For dinner today, I had pizza, but don't tell anybody. I got Little Caesars.
That's okay. Pizza. Bad. It's one of those things, alright? Bad pizza is still good. It's really very hard to have like a unpleasant pizza.
I don't know, man. Have you? Oh no, I shouldn't drop names, but I've tasted some cardboard ass pizzas at some notable franchises.
I don't know, man. It just needs cheese, bread, and tomato sauce, and that's all I need, man.
That's your basic definition of pizza: just cheese, sauce, and bread.
Yeah.
You
Doesn't
think
have to be
Lunchables pizzas? You think
crushed.
Lunchable pizzas are pizzas?
Yeah, hell yeah, that was the sauce.
Hell
Elementary
no.
school, that was the sauce, man.
Did you put? Well, I ate them separately. I ate them. I ate the sauce out of the packet. I didn't bother constructing them.
I meant the sauce as in like an expression for something good.
No, I know. But what I'm saying, the Lunchables, the actual Lunchables, like I didn't bother put them together as they should have been. I just ate them separately. Ate the ingredients separately.
Not a Lunchable artesian.
No. Forget that. I'm in a hurry, you know. I gotta get outside, play some ball.
He's got places to be.
I got places to be. Ain't no time to be cooking with this Lunchables. So going back to Sam's show, like how was your pools? How did it feel? I think you made a pretty clean run through the pools, right?
Yeah, so I was the top seed. So I had, you know, my definition of the top seed should have the easiest quote unquote pool, but my pool actually, to get out of my pool, so Flunk beat Healing Vision.
That was really want a Healing Vision just to. I mean, no disrespect to Flunk, but Healing Vision was one of the players that I really want to see go really far. Just because I'm a Kusa, right? I really want to see that character appear on like stream and stuff.
Well, yeah. So just in kind of our discussions about ourselves, we really put a lot of stock in Healing Vision as like the dark horse pick, just because he wasn't around for the Parsec era, and because he's one of like the most active Xbox people. Because he's playing a new character that hasn't been explored, right? That I think is very underrated, and because he did really well at Evo. We were kind of discussing, in that sort of area in the bracket, it's probably going to end up being Healing Vision and Flunk. And, sure enough, that's how it worked out. And I watched, and it was so neck and neck. And then, God, it's one of those tournament things you really bang your head about, but Flunk landed in Eason, and so Healing had pixel health, but he hadn't popped his rage yet.
Oh no.
So he rolled out of the corner. He didn't pop his rage, and then Flunk preemptively prepped an arrow. He jumped backed. Without popping his rage. And then Flunk let go, and the exact pixel, the stupid 50 health level 1 arrow killed him. Off the back.
Oh no! Oh no!
Oh, we were talking about Healing Vision. I was like, Healing Vision keeps preemptive back jumping with the floatiest character in the game. All he has to do is not do that. That's the biggest weakness of his gameplay. And sure enough, that's the only. I mean, I don't know, right? It's a scramble situation. You don't know how it's gonna go, right? But it was a heartbreaker. So it was me and Flunk to get out in winners, and I beat Flunk 2-0. But the interesting thing is that both the games were pretty close.
Yeah. When it was close though. 0-2, but it was close though. Yes.
Well, the first game went to Easton standoff, and I kind of don't think about games too much after I play them. I play very in the moment, but Flunk punished my sweep every time I did it. That's kind of the litmus test of if you know what to do against Spike-In, is if you could punish 2C.
I was wondering, which sweep are you talking about? Are you talking about the 3K or are you talking about the 2C?
No, 2C.
2C, yeah.
Mina has one of the best standard cancels in the whole game, of 5v, right? It's so easy. If anyone can do a standing, because standing cancels are so much easier than running cancels because of the S and K buffer.
Yeah, just smash it out.
Yeah, so the most important thing is the consistency of the punish, not the optimality of the damage, right? So
Right.
every time I swept, he got the 5C, the 5E stripper kick. And the interesting thing about Flunk's Mina versus my Mina when I was at my peak was that I kind of had all these setups. Started out with like the overhead arrow and like setting up the 50-50 with the donkey kick, the 6D, right? And I remember watching Flunk and I was like, you know, Flunk's setups aren't legit. He just does hop arrow and hop arrow sucks. Just he does setups that aren't real meaties and he just like does these jank ass YOLO 50-50s, but like every time I rolled forward against Flunk, I got scared. So maybe maybe he's got it. Maybe he knows something I don't.
I know he's got the secret sauce.
yeah. Maybe you say it's not legit until you get there, and I was like, oh man, I don't think I've ever played Flunk in an actual bracket until Frosty.
Don't know. Right.
And I was like, he really showed out. So the first game was very close, Easton standoff. The second game was last round, but I won without his burst, without bursting. So yeah, he performed very well.
Hey, as long as you can make your opponent scared, everything's real. In my opinion.
Yeah, so good job to Flunk. I definitely didn't make it out of post free. I didn't struggle much before Flunk, but it wasn't like, I'm not gonna lie and say it was some pushover. And then the interesting thing was a loser's bracket of that pool.
Right.
So we were like, our picks just amongst the guys, it's probably gonna be Healing Vision or Flunk getting out in the losers bracket. But the interesting thing is that it wasn't Flunk and Healing Vision to get out in losers.
That's AO's Dave.
AO's Dave beat Healing Vision. And
I didn't see that actually. How like, because the pools weren't really streaming. We only got hand cams for a couple games here and there. Like, how did that game go? Like, I see it as a 2-1, but were they like super tight 2-1s or like what? Because I know that from playing the matchup. Like, AOC still uses Hanzo, right?
Yeah, so it was like super tight to the wire. It was really tight, and it was one of those games. There was a lot of YOLO shit. I don't think either people knew what to do against the other.
Oh, what do you mean? What do you mean? Like teleports? Like Hanzo teleport overhead and
just like Healing Vision would like antsy back jump from point blank and like Dave wouldn't punish and Dave would like Hanzo 6-6C like
anti-air?
No, like non-cross up Hanzo 6-6C from like mid screen and like Healing Vision didn't punish. Like,
okay.
It was very scrambly, but like it was also very fundamental, if that makes sense. And it went down to like, I wonder if I could find the video. This is what I wanted to do, like a rewatch, right?
Yeah, that would be interesting. Maybe. But because I know that matchup, like, because I was talking to King Fossil in the Zapshow Discord about the Hanzo versus Amakusa, because I was desperately trying to look for a counter pick for this character, and Remo just can't handle it. And I actually played that matchup with Hanzo, and King Fossil, he plays Amakusa, and we both kind of, not that we play against each other, but we both kind of came to I wouldn't say a conclusion, but at the same agreement that matchup was actually kind of even, despite the tools. Like, you would think Hanzo can't really, like, he has teleports and stuff, but even then, it's like, is it actually the answer against Amakusa? But apparently Amakusa just doesn't really have an answer to Hanzo up close, and Hanzo has issues getting in against Amakusa. So apparently it's very even, and to see that play out in a tournament is pretty enlightening. So maybe I will look into that matchup more, because I did work on Hanzo for a decent amount of time. and I'm still not sure what to use against that character, Amakusa. I have been trying to work on Akatsuki, but if Hanzo seems to be proven on paper and even in offline scenario that you can actually go toe to toe and be that close with Amakusa, then it might be worth exploring actually. And did you see any other games from AO's Dave?
I actually played AO with Dave.
Oh yeah, how's his form?
He definitely like he felt solid but unfamiliar. But
with the new meta and stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of how it is with Viking, right? It's just like
right.
For one thing, Hanzo's pretty technical. You need to really be on point, and it's like if your middies aren't real, I have no problem jabbing you out of them, right? Mm-hmm. And for one thing, Viking donks Hanzo. Like it's a hard 6-4, and most people don't know what to do against a very powerful character that did not show up until a lot later. So most people stopped playing. Basically, if you weren't on Xbox, it's hard. A Viking of my caliber.
Rare.
Who are you gonna play, right? Like.
Yeah. How many Hanzos are there? There's quite a few Hanzos on the Xbox community, right?
Oh,
Cypher is one.
Cypher's been playing a lot of Hanzo. Hanzo is very good.
Yeah. And Mr. Pac,
Mr. Pac to you mains Hanzo. As far as offline rep goes, Dave is probably most prominent Hanzo. And then as far as active players,
well, Royal Cycle has been working on Hanzo for a while, but I haven't seen him pull it out yet, I don't think.
Yeah, so when I played Royal, he very clearly does not like the Viking matchup, and has been like trying to sort things out. So both at KIT and at Frosty's, played him in casuals for a bit, and then he kind of went to Hanzo, but it's like
still bad. Is that matchup still bad?
It's also bad, but like it's more about that's the thing, right? It's not a counter pick. It's not. It's bad in different ways, but it's bad, right? You're not.
Right.
I think a lot of characters can contend with Viking. It's not like Viking's in play, so you just lose, right? I think most of the top 2 characters hold their own against Viking, but it is pretty hard for both the ninjas. So I don't think switching to a different ninja is.
Yeah, I think the ninjas are like quote unquote based on quote unquote again gimmicks, right? And then their fundamentals, like their buttons and stuff, like suffer a bit against like a Viking. Just Vikings and buttons are just way better. So in order,
they both have like they're like zoning emphasis mid-range characters, so like they have solid mid-range but not amazing. And who has amazing mid-range? Viking.
Right.
So from a mid-range, this was the thing that got Tao, is that like it's just not worth it. Because it's so easy because of the 5B that moves the hurt box forward. It's so easy for me to recoil punish 5B. That's their like fundamental button, and
there
are other buttons like
mix up
6A.
Yeah,
I can really easily low profile. They don't have a jumping presence that can contend with her.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty punishable. The YOLO options like the overhead and the slide, they both have the same really punchable slide. They both don't have running. They don't have running cancels. They don't have 6 cancelable 6
No, that's a big one. I think that it's just their 6B is mostly mix-up tools. That's the biggest problem. It's usually just a low slasher. So
Yeah, it's difficult when Viking can make you block all day, and then now she gets to guard crush pressure you or you just hard. I just really like making people block, and then the fun starts because most people won't. Most people learn very quickly not to block standing too much, and then I'll like overhead you 5 times.
Yeah, man, that overhead needs to. That overhead. That's a good move. That overhead. What the hell? So I mean, your pool went. I think your pool went about just as expected. I mean, the only thing that was notable was AO pulling up against Flunk in the losers finals. But what about the other brackets? Like, was there any notable? I mean, overall, the top 8 kind of ended up what we thought it was going to be. But was there any specific interesting sets that you saw while being TOing around the pools?
So, a lot of sets were very close. Like, there wasn't a lot of blowouts. And I know... Here's the interesting thing, right, that I was talking about with Sorrow, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not fair or accurate to just look at somebody and say, this guy is a better player than XYZ guy, who he's going to beat guy. So, I don't know if you're familiar with Alzaraf, the Jubei.
I've heard stories from Ghost that he was a former top Jubei in OSC area.
Yeah, he is like a super strong Jubei in 2019 place at ECT. He entered this year, and I played him in casuals, and I didn't lose. It was 6-1, but just impressionistically, like his neutral fundamentals. As soon as I played him, I was just like, this guy's gonna make top 8.
Mm-hmm.
He just has it, you know. He doesn't have the specifics, like all my Viking stuff, like he didn't. I was pretty clearly the first Viking he ever played.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm pretty positive if I kept playing him, it would have been like more even. Like
he almost made it too, right? He almost made top 8 actually against Dow in the losers finals.
Yeah, so that was the interesting thing, was that he made it to, it was Pool C, right? Pool B. Yeah, Pool B. So the interesting thing was that, you know, I was gassing him up to Sorrow. I was like, you know, this guy's legit and stuff. And then he was playing Vato in casuals, and Vato's pretty open that, like, you know, he hasn't played at all. It's like the last year's Frosty. And, you know, like my kind of impression of Vato is like he's really solid in a lot of games. But in Sam Show, he plays very, like, kind of reckless, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's definitely a fair assessment. But, you know, I was like, you know, someone like Alzaroth, really solid, fundamental, neutral, where you can't do crap without getting hurt for it a lot. Like, I don't know how it's gonna go. I think he's probably gonna shut him out, but like, he was beating. Sarah told me he was watching the play in casuals, and like, friendly Vato was dunking him. Right? So like, I can't. It's hard to say. You know, I think this guy's better than this guy, because like when it comes down to the tournament and the personality of the guy you're playing, it may or may not work like that. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, as far as it went, who did he lose to? Oh, he got double jeopardy by Tao. Oof.
Yeah. So like that's what I'm saying. Like apparently, but even then it was 2-1, right? It was what I didn't see the game, but did you? Did you see it? Like, how close was it down to? Because
I,
I
I don't,
remember,
I don't think
I
I
remember
watched
you
that one
coming to Discord.
closely.
Okay.
I don't watch that one
I remember,
closely, so.
he said, I remember because we were discussing, we're watching it in the Discord. We had a little live watch party in the Discord, the central Discord, and then I remember him popping in and saying I couldn't clutch it out against Tao. So I was like, oh, okay, so it must have been a really, really tight game.
Yeah, I mean, that pool's pretty crazy because Sorrow put Tau losers, right? And it's like it's crazy to even think Tau could be put in losers, right? Like think of
Yeah.
like you think Tau is the guy to beat in winners, and then it really speaks to how much Sorrow is. Sorrow really put himself on the map at this tournament. I'm super, super proud of him. It really speaks to how stacked that is when somebody puts the killer, like a top 4 seeded player, in losers. Feels out there, and like Alzarath's really good, but like he hasn't entered in forever, and somebody has to not be seeded. Each pool, I think the pools were balanced in that like each pool had 3 or 4 good dudes, but only 2 people can make it out. So unfortunately, it was an unfortunate double jeopardy. There was actually another interesting double jeopardy in this pool. In that, I'm also very proud of Frosty. Thrusty's all the resident TO. Yeah. Happy birthday, by the way. This is his birthday today.
Oh,
today
is
we're
it?
recording this. So happy birthday to the GOAT, Thrusty's all. Carrying Xbox, like Atlas carrying the Earth.
It's so heavy carrying this community.
Yeah, we owe you a lot, buddy, if you're watching. And Thrusty's not a tournament player. Like, he didn't enter in Evo. He doesn't enter his monthlies. It's his prerogative. He doesn't enter tournaments. No way. So he entered, and he made it very far. He was...
Yeah, he had a warpath until he met Alzarath, which is like he just too old everybody in right? Like he got thrown to losers by Alzarath, and then from there he just 2-0, 2-0, 2-0 everybody, and then met Alzarath again.
Yeah, he has 2-0 against Master Havoc, lost to Alzarath. Then 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, lost to Alzarath, and God, he had the... I remember him, he was just like kind of sitting in the corner, and he had the salties. He was going through his... the little phase right after you lost, you're kind of mulling, you're kind of stewing about it, right? He was definitely having his little salty part. And we were all like, man, Thrusty, you did so well, you got like 13th or something, but I think he was kind of upset on principle that he lost. He got double jeopardy. Like, because I remember Boba mentioned he got, at Evo, he got double jeopardied by Royal Psycho.
Oh, really?
And just the fact that he was double jeopardied by like one dude kind of ticked him off a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So I guess that's not kind of, for me. It's like if you lost either way.
Right.
It doesn't really matter specifically who it was. If you lost the same guy twice, it just happened to be the same guy you played. But like, I guess for some people on an emotional level, a double jeopardy is like more emotionally devastating. It's like how maybe you could have done better against a different person or whatever. But
it also feels just like feels like somebody has your number, right? It's that feeling like that this guy just knows how to kill you. Like they beat you once, and it was it might have been a fluke, right? But then you get a second chance, you get the run back, but you still lose. That feels extra pain, right?
Yeah. So that was interesting in that pool. And then the other thing is that Argon Rost, I know he's been holding it. So like Argon Ross, he like keeps entering, right? But like I know he won like Florida has like a monthly series with Sam Show, and he keeps winning those.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember he's been at a few tournaments. Like he was at KIT, and I think he didn't make it out. But he got like 9th or something. Actually, let's see. KIT 2022. Yeah, he got 9th at KIT, and he got 9th-ish at this, or 9th or like 11th or something at this tournament. So Argon is holding it down. He's just it's interesting because he's consistent and he's doing well, and he's just not happening to kind of break that point to get into the top 8. So we had 2 instances of pretty strong like semi-active players making it very far in that pool, but you know, they had to get through Tau, and like getting through Tau at all is a tall order. And Tau pulled it out, but I'm happy for those guys. They did pretty well. Good on them.
Oh, I was going to talk about another pool that caught my eye and attention was Pool C, where I kind of expected Royal Psycho to make it into winners, and he did. But the second person to make it out of that was a complete question mark. This is one of those question mark pools, because that couldn't have been filled by anybody. I was particularly interested in Viet Lu because he's working on a Tam Tam, right? Like, did you watch his games?
Yeah, he played only Tam Tam in all his pool matches.
And any comments on that as a former Tam Tam main?
My comments are Tam Tam sucks and you should probably play somebody else. I don't know. But, you know, I think Viet Lu is actually kind of talented, but he's like, he is so like non-committal. He's kind of capping his potential a bit. But
permanent character crisis. That's like Viet Lu was in. He was in the last term he went. It was Charlotte. He was entering Charlotte, right? If I recall.
I think he played Shiki at Evo the whole way.
Really?
Yeah.
No, wait. Wasn't there? Is that the most recent? Just before FF? Like that's the most recent?
Because there's Donkey Soda.
And
Probably,
who do you play in that? Remember?
I don't remember. I know he was definitely working on Charlotte.
Yeah, I remember her. There's a interesting post he made about 50-50s regarding Charlotte. But I won't go into that. It's heavy lore.
Yeah. The Pool C was interesting for a couple of reasons. One of them being that it was probably one of the quote-unquote lightest pools. In the sense that it had Royal Psycho, who is like obviously one of the highest seeded players. And then the other interesting thing being it had a few. The opposite branch had a bunch of players who were like semi-known, but were not that active or not quite as high seed. So those being Vato, Latinx, Guero Asamiya, and Viet Lu. You know, Vato we already talked about already. He doesn't play. He likes the game and he's had good success, but he doesn't play that much, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Guero Asamiya, who is obviously needs no introduction to KOF, but is not really that much of a Samsho player, and like has only had like sporadic success in a few events, but has been around here and there. And then Viet Lu, who has had this
since forever.
yeah, he's been around like for a while, and he's had like some sort of notable success. Like he, you know, top 8 at Lunar Bout, 9th or something at Evo I think he got like 9th or 13th at Evo, right? And then like 4th or something at CEO. So if he's around a bit, he's kind of not completely consistent. So like, yeah, it was basically just Psycho, who then sweat a bead, and then kind of all those other guys to fight on the other side. And the other interesting thing is that we'll see loads of DQs. Like,
oh yeah, the notable one being, unfortunately, Andy got DQ for personal reasons.
Health reasons, right?
Health reasons, yeah. That was unfortunate because I think that was one of the, in my opinion, one of the biggest draws of like attention, right? It's like, whoa, wait a minute, Andy's showing up for this one. That's going to be a really big entrance, right? And unfortunately, he had to drop out.
Yeah, he really speaks for himself, right? But it's kind of just what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, there was lots of other DQs. Like how many? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4.
The entire loses round 1.
5. The entire 6. Oh my fucking! Eat a lot. I remember because there was no breaks between pools, so pool C was lining up, and I noticed that like half the people were there. I was like, am I going nuts? This pool is starting, right? He was like, yeah, it's starting, but just like, it's really weird that almost all the DQs are in a specific pool.
Yeah. I'm counting like 15 DQs.
Yeah, so Psycho's seeded, right? So Psycho didn't have to play first match. And then both of Psycho's qualifying opponents DQ'd. So Psycho got a bye and another bye. And he only had to play... Well, I guess, he had to play 3 from winners. That's kind of how it goes. But, like, yeah, he got halfway through the pool and he didn't play.
Yeah.
But, it's like... Psycho, of all people, obviously deserves to be seated that high.
Yeah.
So... Just a funny, interesting thing. And then, I didn't watch Wero play. I thought he didn't even play. I don't know who he was playing. I assume it was probably a Roja or something. But
right.
I watched Viet Lu and Vato play, and Viet Lu was disarmed. He had like a pixel health. So he threw Vato disarmed and raw Beyblade, light Beybladed, like 3 times. He got it off 3 times.
In a row?
Yeah. And then Vato was at that point, he was at the same health. And then Vato jumps back. And then mid-screen at neutral for no reason, Viet Lu heavy Beyblades. I don't know if he was trying to like get a jump, but like that doesn't work anyways because the invincibility is at the start. It has no air hitbox.
It's like a smash.
Yeah, so it would only hit him if he didn't press an air button. So yeah, Viet Lu Beyblades himself to death against Warden JC.
No.
And he stands up and drops his stick like a lunar bout.
Oh no!
Oh, it's like why you chose to do that, and what are you mad about?
Spin to win. Oh no.
That's okay. He got like 13th. Anyway, so good stuff to Viet Lu. And then Vato makes it out. So yeah, that was kind of a funny pool. So
and Kelly, yeah, and like I've seen her play Nako. Like if she just knew, like her mix is really good. Her pressure is really good.
That's the
she
thing.
knows how to
We were
pressure.
talking about that. Kelly understands 50-50.
Yeah. Just need to punish properly, like the actual like knowing what exactly punishes what, like and be able to capitalize on the situation that she actually created for herself. Like I think I think that's just what she's missing. But like she because that's one of those execution things. Like I think her biggest hurdle is execution. But once you get over that, I think Kelly can just totally blender you, just kill you.
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely something she's getting mileage out of, proving it. And so I'm proud of her in the sense that, you know, she's definitely getting that. So I'm happy for her, Kelly, if you're hearing this. So good for you. Really appreciate you and all the things you do.
Yeah. And also speaking of like, because Kelly's favorite character is Nako, and then as a transition, like in Pool D, one Nako players really surprised us, and that's Moo Master. Did you have in recollection of his games?
I know he took a game off the Ston. Pretty interesting.
But even just as the way we got some handicap footage, also courtesy to Kelly for getting those handicap footage. Let's take a peek at the pools. But Moo Master really impressed us with and I didn't know who Moo Master was, but I did notice that they also entered the 5 special tournament, and well, not 5 special tournament. The it was one of the tournaments. Oh, I remember just looking up what is it, DTK, and seeing Moo Master's name there. So certainly a Sam Show fan, and I remember just watching through the handicap, and both Ludsters and Anton and I watched their Nako. Really impressed by the way he's using Nako Oki. But Pool D, I mean, this is also one of those stacked pools. Like anybody could have taken either spot out the winners finals and losers finals. There's quite a few names, right? Sugar Bear, Maki, Dustin, Light Ice,
Light Ice,
Mantan, like, and
Shinchi,
and even Moo Master, right? Moo Master actually went through losers until it faced against Sugar Bear, right? But certainly had a warpath too.
This was definitely the hardest pool. It definitely had a lot of players that we couldn't justifiably seed, but were notable for playing a long time ago, for net play, right? But it was just kind of one of those things, right? Where it's kind of just how it works. There has to be a hardest pool.
Yeah.
But I think the deserving players.
Okay.
I think the results reflect. I think the results are good. I don't think there's like a big like. I don't think there's some like. I don't think anyone got broad here. I think it looks pretty good.
No, it looks pretty good. And like some of these players, I was looking like the thing about when I see these pools, right? The people that are quote unquote obvious gonna move on, right? Like like even if they don't move on, like the Sugar Bears, the Maki, Lights, the Dustins, right? I tend not to look too hard at them because I just like, you know what, they're really good. So them moving on is not much of a surprise. But I was personally looking forward to see how Freakaholic did. Freakaholic has been really active in the Sam Show Discord, and Freakaholic did. He got 2-0 in his round, went down, then unfortunately lost to Moo Master. But I caught a glimpse of his Shizu play. Right, he's been working on a Shizu for some time before Frosties, and then I was gonna say that, you know, pretty good. I think he did pretty well. But apparently Shizu doesn't fit the way he wants to play. He doesn't like jumping too much.
He lost to Purified WS, who I know has been active, trying to get his feet wet in the game. Then he lost to Moo Master, who is like a good fundamental player. So he lost to solid players, right?
Yeah, but still a good showing. And another one I was looking at is Pure Lowell. Pure Lowell, I feel like it's also super underrated. Like Pure Lowell can be quite scary because I think when he's not frustrated, he actually has really good reactions and play. Like, and if you look at it, the way he went, the score that he has, like a 2-0, and then went to Sugar Bear, no shame in that. And then in the losers 2-0, and then going against Bad Intent 2-1, and then Moon Master 1-2, right? Like these are pretty good scores.
Yeah, that's kind of just how it is. I feel like a double bill elimination bracket kind of betrays how good someone is or how well they do sometimes. And not everyone has the benefit of seeding. It's kind of unfortunate. I don't think the people that are kind of like 1 and 2 in a tournament like this is actually pretty good. Not even that bad.
Yeah. And one other person is a Shinji. I did see some of Candy Cam. There was some confusion because Sora likes to spread fake news. I thought Shinji was using Wanfu, but it turns out Shinji was using Baiken, and that was because I haven't seen Shinji play in a while, so I was like, oh, that's an interesting choice over the opposite end, from top tier to absolute low bottom tier Basara that Shinji usually plays.
I mean, yeah, I actually agree that those are the best and the worst characters.
Yeah, it's like you either play top tier to play bottom tier. Yeah, and then I remember I can't remember which game it was. I believe it was against. It was I think I saw footage of Shinji versus Moon Master, and then the Baiken wasn't cutting it, and then so Shinji decided to switch to Basara for the last game, and then I just felt, I don't know, man. You're switching from Baiken down all the way to the bottom tier. I mean, I understand like that's their main, right? So it's like I get that feelings, like even if it's bottom tier, but you're at least comfortable with that character. But I feel like that kind of teardrop, that significant downgrade from top tier to bottom tier, in a tournament where you're going 1-1 and it's the last game, it's like that was unfortunate. Unfortunate spot to be put in, right? But yeah, that was I was surprised because when I saw the initial footage of Wanfu, and then I was like, oh wow, did Shinji just get eliminated already? And why Wanfu, right? It's like, but no, Wanfu was a beast. Shinji was playing Baiken versus Wanfu. Wow, how is that matchup anyway? Because I think we saw a glimpse of that in top 8 with Sora pulling on the Wanfu, right? So how is that matchup?
I think on paper, so I think when he has his weapon, I think the matchup is even. The problem is that he has to disarm himself, period. Or if he doesn't, the way Wanfu works is that if he never disarms himself, he is essentially just playing like a discount Jubei.
Yeah, his buttons are actually kind of it's a little slow. His buttons are just a little bit slow, but
yeah,
the boxes are pretty good. Actually, like his jump C is very good. Wanfu's jump C boxes are kind of scary.
Yeah, the really cool thing about Wanfu, in my opinion, is that on paper, Wanfu has the best recoil game in Show 7.
Because he's instantly airborne if he recoils, and you had to guess, right?
Yeah, because you can't challenge it. Most people, they recoil, and then the mind game is they recoil, and now you take your turn back or they're punishable. Wanfu recoils, you have to guess the recoil, and even when you guess the recoil, now he's plus. And now he can
right
throw. You can't. You have to jump out. You can't counter poke. Nothing counter poke 6-6A. It's not like other 6-6As where you can 2D. Yeah, you can't challenge it. You have to block and take your turn back. It means he can scoop you.
Yeah.
Right? So.
But that comes with a double-edged thing. It's like, what if you do block that mix and you survive the 50-50 afterwards? He's unarmed now, and, and then he's good. His punch is really good. His heavy punch is really good, and like it combos on a like it always combos from a jump in and does 100 damage, which is way better than regular punches. And it has a command grab, right? But after that, it's like if you can keep Wangfu away from retrieving the weapon, he's kind of toast, right?
Yeah, it's just the way it works, kind of. If you're unarmed, not so much like against the rushdown or the mid-range characters, but against if you're unarmed against the zoner, it's bad because your jumps become trivial anti-air. And
Take chip.
yeah, you don't have the benefit of counter poking with your 6-6A against the mid-range normals.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really, really easy to just like zone people indefinitely and then get the damage from the anti-air until they get their weapon back. Or get so much forward screen space that they can't reasonably get their weapon back and then get life advantage back before they lose the time over. Or you run out all their rage because they have to spend time fighting back against you. Or you just literally kill them only by zoning, which I've done before. So,
yeah, I could might as well be a zoner, honestly.
yeah. So like, that's the thing that I think makes it in Vikin's favor is that he will have to put himself in that.
Yeah.
Kinda, it's just hard to fight back. So I don't know about a number or so, but I do think it's in Vikin's favor.
Just overall, right? Just overall. But in terms of when he has a weapon, it's more even.
Yeah, more or less, yeah.
He does like ever since Wangfu got that DP buff, it's become way more solid and neutral when he has a weapon because he actually has a reversal anti-air. And I always thought like weapon throw, despite the repercussions on if you miss the 50-50 and you don't get a chance to retrieve it, like I always thought weapon throw was a very good special. It's great at anti-airing, technically air-to-airing. It's a good mix. And it's just fun to throw out. Like they have to, and whenever you jump, right, you have to be aware that he can throw it at any time. That's the biggest part, I think. But yeah, interesting. Yeah, and then I think overall, right, like the pools were pretty. Like it's still super unfortunate that we had to go through handicap to just get a view because I think usually pools is what. It's one of the more interesting parts of a tournament to just see some of these games by quote unquote unknowns, right? But then top 8 kind of filled out with I don't want to use the word expected, like because you obviously you can't really, nothing's guaranteed and you want to count anyone out. But this top 8 didn't raise any eyebrows, I don't think, right?
Let's take a look. So, no, not especially, but I think it also was pretty exciting, and I think a lot of games. I feel like it could have went either way in some cases. Like I don't know. Like
the games, yeah. But I'm just saying the players that populate top 8 in terms of who's actually here, like that's not particularly surprising, right? It's like, I don't see anybody here that's like, oh, well, I didn't expect them to be in top 8, but like, I think everybody here is like generally accepted to be a top 8 player.
Yeah, it's kind of a who's who of. It looks like a fantasy bracket. It looks like what people would vote on.
Yeah.
It kind of matches kind of what I was thinking about in my head based on what I know about the community. Right?
Yeah. And I think there was a lot of pre-tournament discussion about like how well the Parsec era players are going to be doing and how well the Xbox players are going to do, right? Like so, and I think there's a lot of confidence in the Xbox group, like making it a lot of presence in the top 8, but that ended up like, for example, like I still consider you as a Parsec player, but I think the Xbox crew has adopted you into their own, so like they consider you as an Xbox rep, but I still consider you as like the Parsec era. It's like Dustin's also Parsec era. Royal Psych, actually, did Royal Psych play in? He didn't, right? He did play in Parsec
Royal
era.
Psycho does not. Royal Psycho played in Parsec era. But
He played, but he joined the. He didn't like. Did he hop on? I don't remember. Did he hop on the Parsec sessions? I don't remember.
Yes. Yes, he did.
Okay. Okay. But yeah, so Royal Cycle's whole Parsec era. Flunk, Maki, Tao, even Vato, they're all Parsec era. And then like I guess if you want to really like get adopted, then Zoro, Maki, you are considered Xbox crew.
Well,
I still consider you Parsec era.
I think the most notable thing about this is Sorrow's placement, Sorrow's result, because
Really, you didn't think he's going to be come through in winners? I thought he's winners material.
well, not that per se, but it's more like I know Sorrow's a good player, but Sorrow wasn't at Evo, and his only prior major offline tournament was Lunar Bout, which had like 27 people, and he got 5th, and it was almost a year ago, right? So it's like, it's kind of just interesting. It's like, I'm very proud of him because he went against the established players, and he was confident in his skill, and he did exactly as good as he earned success based on his confidence about himself. Like, he really put his name out there, and now no one can say that he's just an Xbox warrior, or he's only like doing well because X or Y or Z people aren't playing or whatever. He beat very legitimate players and outplaced very legitimate players.
Yeah, cemented himself. So he's like a top player for sure.
Yeah.
Again, going against like Royal Psycho, going against like Tao, especially. I think like putting his mark, taking down, like dropping Tao down to losers is a really big deal. And it was a clean, right? It was like 2-0, right? Yeah, it was like a. Let me just double check. Yeah, 2-0, and then sent Tao to losers. Like that's that kind of result is nothing to ignore, right? I think like even though Tao gets his revenge in losers finals, but Zoro put enough pressure on Tao to actually swap out of his main, right? Like,
yeah,
that's saying something as well. Because Tao is definitely one of those players. Like if you wanted to, and you're not particularly a threat, like he can pick any character and just smash you, right? He could. So to force him out of his main to actually think about a counter strategy and pick somebody else is really indicative of your skill, right? And what else is interesting? Oh well, I have some things to say. Like, I have something to say about some of these games here because this is actually streamed, and I was watching very closely. Especially with a certain character got much more representation than I thought I would ever see. At the that deep in a tournament, and then. Yeah. So, any other thoughts about top 8?
Okay. So as far as interesting or unique things, okay. So there is something really funny. So Vato forgot how to do an SSM. So I was
oh right.
I was sitting by him. at the top 8, you know, they have everyone sit at the front. So I was sitting by him, waiting for him to play, and he was like, "Yo, how do I do SSM?" I was just like, "Okay, forward, half circle forward, and then you throw, then make sure you hit back or it won't come out." So I told him that. He's like, "Okay, got it, thank you." He went up against Tao, and he gets the SSM, and he messes it up.
No, no, no.
You hate to see it. So that was funny. It's interesting that Destan lost to me and Tao, which was like, those are me and Tao and him. Those are like the Parsec. Those are all Parsec era big boys.
Yeah.
It's like it's sort of like, I don't know, fitting. It's kind of, it's just interesting that it worked out like that. Like he went up against the same people he would be going up again in the Parsec era, right?
Yeah, that's a callback to.
Yeah.
And about your game versus Dustin, he pulled out his Hibiki in the last game, and that was something. Even the chat and on Twitch didn't really approve of that. And like we know how like if you've been following the scene, you know how much Scrub has played against this matchup, right?
Yeah. So apparently nobody told him that I play Sorrow more than anybody else. But as soon as he did that, I was just like, you just made the biggest mistake of your life.
Yeah, like you have at least what 5 hours, like legit, probably like 500 games under your belt just from Sora alone in that matchup, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like, because you run multiple first to 50s in that matchup, and like, I feel like if you're not playing at Sora's level and this is your side character, it's like, it's over, right? And the thing is, using his Kazuki wasn't even suffering that much against Bison, right? Like,
yeah, it was close both games. He could have.
Yeah, it could have just continued. I don't know why he just decided to go use Hibiki when. Yeah, like in chat, like people were saying, I don't know about this pick. It's like.
So in the second game, one of the interesting things was he raw punished my 2B on block with Pink Slash once. So clearly he's been working on something. Or
definitely. I mean, he's not like foreign to Hibiki. Like even during the Parsec era, he was working on Hibiki. I remember playing against this Hibiki with my Rimu, right? So it's not like he just picked this up randomly. It's just he definitely has one in his pocket. But how well does he know this matchup is the question, right?
Yeah. So that was the interesting thing. And the other interesting thing about Destan was that when I was prepping to play him, I try not to overthink it too much because, like, you know, we haven't played that actively, and also because he's played various characters and I didn't know exactly who he'd go with, and I was just like, okay, well, the important thing is that you can raw punish 6/6D, so don't let him get away with that. Other than that, I was just thinking about how to manage against the fireball, right? And then I kind of just, you know, went back to the season 2 strategy of if you could hold up into the level 2s, and then he can't hit confirm off the level 2. He wastes his meatballs. He doesn't get the knockdown, so he can't charge more. But there was a couple instances in like the second game, I think, where I did that and then I got knocked down, and then he just charged 2 more meatballs. So it was really like bugging me, so I got home and I loaded up training mode. And then when you jump into Kazuki meatballs, with a button that is not heavy slash, you counter hit, you get an air flip reset. But when you jump into them with when I jump into them with JC counter hit, I get knocked down.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't know what that is.
Wait. Is that level 2s only, or is that just always the case for any level?
Well, level 3 knocks down. I don't think I remember testing level 1, but like
level 3 always
2.
knocks down. Yeah, level 3 always knocks down. It's
okay.
level 2. Level 1 and 2 is like, so you didn't test level 1, so but for sure level 2 on counter hit you got knocked down.
Yeah, and I think I tested it with one other character. I was just...
Were you clipped by the? Because technically you can get clipped by the second hit, not the first hit, right? I think that's possible. That's
I don't know if that's it, but that's like important. That has a big impact on the matchup. So I've been meaning to like take a look at that. So.
I didn't know that. Because if that is the case for Kazuki, right? What if that's also the case for in other matchups? Like counter hits actually, because in this game, like as far as we know, counter hits is just more damage. It doesn't do anything other than that, right? But this has implications. If it causes knockdown in some interaction, this has implications on how you can use the moves.
You know the Warden counter hit post 5B gets you the joggle, right? So there's no like frame data counter hit differences in the game, but I think specific moves have like different counter hit move properties or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
okay.
It kind of begs the question, what else is there in the game? Because I had no idea about this. So.
Yeah, so it's like Warden counter hit 5B gets you the link into the full thing, the full string, right?
Anti-air counter hit post 5B lets you juggle into weapon flip. Warden.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, so maybe counter hits versus air. It's worth labbing to see what. So because now I'm thinking, right? What if there's certain moves that we thought were just kind of useless in like, for example, some of the wall bounce stuff? What if on counter hit they actually let you juggle?
Yeah.
Right? Because like most of the time, like these hits, like counter hit is a very specific state, and most of the time you get a counter hit is because you got a deflect or something, right? And then get a counter hit that way. But like, specifically against anti-air, like some of these moves you just don't use against anti-airs, right? So it's like, now that if you know that they have a specific property on a counter hit against airs, then you can start thinking them as a move you might want to even use that you don't normally use as anti-airs, you just actually want to use as anti-airs just because you have a combo potential. That's interesting. And now that we have the debugger, we can actually confirm some of these frame by frame. You can actually see if their hitbox is still lingering after the counter hit while they're in the air.
Definitely.
So, any other? Oh, that's really interesting. Any other things that you were notable to you in this topic?
Not specifically. I think
the
overall gameplay at this event was the highest of any event since COVID.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty plain to see just clear that at a local level, people are getting back into the swing, preparation for rollback, and the impact of Xbox on like the kind of community meta is being seen too. And it was very like a positive momentum. I hope we can keep it going, and I think Combo Breaker will be super hype, especially if they can get rollback the door. But
right then, when is it again? The exact date? Do you know on top of your head?
Oh, I mean, Combo Breaker?
Yeah, yeah.
Combo Breaker is like May 26th
May.
or something.
3 more months. For me, this top 8 was super special enough that I actually did a analysis video on the top 8, focusing on Tao pulling out Rimu of all characters in this deep into the bracket. Like, pulling it out. So wait, let's see. Let me track. Where did Tao first pull out the Rimu? I think it's the first one was against game 1 against Dustin, right? And that caught me by because that was a because the people explained to me saying that like Dustin just totally expects the Koski versus Galford matchup, but him pulling out the Rimu was like a kind of just monkey wrench, right, in the works kind of thing. And I felt like Tao could have actually taken down Dustin because the game wasn't that. It wasn't like Dustin just like LL Rimu just and ran over, right? It's like I felt like I can't remember which round 1. I think it was actually round 2. I can't remember which round it was, but Tao lost a giant life lead against Koski because he didn't switch into a defensive Rimu playstyle. He kind of just kept playing grounded, and which is in my analysis video, I feel like a lot of these situations, if Tao switched gears and took stock of what advantage he had, especially using Rimu, and started playing like defensive platforming stuff, he would just take him like several games. But it's because he is more fundamentals focused with Rimu, like really, really heavily chose to play on the ground, that other characters kind of outshine Rimu in that situation. And another thing is like, man, Tao just, I don't know why he refuses to do like to actually lab this character and do like some of the setups and stuff. But hey, he proved that you don't actually need it, I guess. But I just feel like there's a lot of situations where he could have eked out that extra bit of Rimu, right? And the most important part was, so that's for Koski versus, because that Koski versus Rimu was not a good matchup, in my opinion. Koski has really good ways to deal with even platform. Like JB is actually a decent button to press, and if you guess correct, like 66C is such a good button to catch Rimu jumping off the platform. You can just run up and do it. And then like if I recall correctly, the fireballs just don't engage with the rolling ice. So if he throws a fireball behind it, like you throw a rolling Tandake and he throws a fireball at you, you don't get a run up mix. You just have to, hold it. And then obviously meatball, right? And the thing is, I think Koski is pretty much a dedicated, not actually dedicated, but like Koski is a very anti-Oki character too. He can just spend meatballs and just ignore whatever setup you want to do, right? Because you gotta take note of the floating fireball coming at you. But the way Tao played definitely could have gone further than just using her for one game, losing and then switching to Galford. Definitely that matchup definitely shook Dustin a little bit. Then again, right? Who are you really looking to play Rimu for that matchup experience? Honestly, like it's this rare character, so you would just have to play against Tao's fundamentals against and I think I can't remember which game. I thought Tao was going to do a unblockable setup where he threw an ice and he got hit and he was going to burst into it, but he messed up the timing, so it didn't work. But I was super hyped to see that. And then the biggest one was the 3-0 against Sorrow, because Sorrow has been trying. We were originally going to plan out a exhibition match between my Rimu versus his Hibiki, and he wanted, because he said there's nobody really playing Rimu like at a super high caliber. I wouldn't even consider myself a super high caliber, but like high enough caliber on Xbox. So he already wanted to play my Rimu. But unfortunately, the beta being what it was, that didn't happen. But seeing this Tao pulling 3-0 against Zoro, I think that must have been eye opening in terms of what this character can do. But apparently, from what I've heard, immediately after the tournament, Zoro pretty much got his revenge in casuals in that matchup and was doing really, really well. Personally, I feel Rimu is versus Hibiki is obviously Hibiki is better than Rimu in just terms of damage and just buttons, right? But playing that matchup doesn't feel too bad in my opinion. Like I don't feel limited. I don't feel like, oh my god, this matchup I had to play a certain way. I can still do whatever I need to do. So, but seeing Tao put Rimu on the map, because usually, like honestly, Rimu doesn't really get too much attention. People are often surprised to see how well she can do. Only the people who actually have been playing a decent amount knows that she's a menace in the right hands. But Tao being able to show Rimu at a tournament of this caliber and get decent score, I think get decent performance out of her is really exciting. Like I was yelling, oh my god, if you just had this character, if you just did the setups, if you just played in a certain play style at a certain scenario, you would have taken this round or that round. Because I feel like Tao is super good, right? Super good player, and then just needed that extra bit of matchup knowledge or labbing in that character to really make her shine. And like, but from what I heard from Pulse, like Tao doesn't really even play Sam Show like that. He's just good. He doesn't really actually practice this game anymore. Spends more time playing KOF. So
yeah, I mean he's really talented at a bunch of games. And from what I've heard, he likes 5 special better than 7.
Of course.
He he just doesn't. He plays like 7 at locals, but does not like actively play 7 at all. So not surprised at all that Tao did as well easy.
Wait, imagine if you took it seriously, right? Imagine if you actually took it like super seriously.
I mean, I used to fear Tao. Like, you know, he was always like giving me a run for it in the Parsec lobby. Right? I know things are different now, but it's very interesting to think about if you took everyone at the peak of their play and put them in one tournament instead of just everybody at a particular time in one tournament, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see how rollback brings that out of people, if it does bring it out of people, have everybody motivated again and able to actually practice on a fair and equal level, because you know not everyone wants to buy an Xbox play. I respect that.
Yeah.
And also not everyone has access to a local scene. That's what rollback is supposed to bridge.
Yeah. Do you think, well, are you still going, do you think the Xbox crew will migrate? Because I do know Frosty is interested in doing something for Steam once the rollback is fully implemented. Like, do you think the Xbox crew will just sort of migrate over to Steam? Or just still stay within the closed community?
I think it's hard to say, but I think every platform with playable netcode will be played or will still get mileage. So I think the people that are around are not going anywhere, but I can't say if Xbox will still be
the place to go, right?
Yeah, that's definitely how it is right now, but you know, things can always change. For Parsec, just like how it changed for PSN.
Yeah, I think because I think a lot of the Xbox crew, like Sora included, are former PS4 crew. I say crew, but they're not really a crew, just like PS4 moving on to Series X. And then, so essentially, a lot of people have multiple copies of this game. So if I think going forward, when rollback comes on all the systems, um, if you needed games to grind against certain players, you can just ask them, and then you can just hop onto whatever system you're on. I think the discourse over which platform will be the platform to go to is more catered towards people who are joining now, especially a lot of players who wanted to play this game but didn't because they heard the netcode was bad. But then now with a giant sale that I think is still going on, we attracted a lot of new faces in the Steam community. So I think going forward, the old heads, quote unquote, is still accessible on every platform like Xbox, PlayStation, and then the newer players will probably all gather around Steam.
I think long term, like long term, the way it works for most fighting games is most people are opting for PC versions.
Mhm.
Or hardware transfer. You can just build a new PC, right, or upgrade your current PC.
Right.
That's where it's like more cumbersome to buy a new console. Accessibility with like Steam sales and with controllers, with Steam overlay, handling all the drivers, and people just enjoying lower input lag. Right? It's kind of, it feels like things have really shifted in the scene where for casual personal play, PC is now the place to go. So I think long term there will be a shift to PC, but shorter term, it's hard to say anyway in particular.
Yeah.
Now,
And,
as far as consoles go, this tournament was pretty unique. This being the first ever major for Samsho 7. Also hosted on Xbox Series.
mhm.
So I think it's pretty notable to talk about that and the impact it had on the event. So we presented our case after the survey we did in late September for the Frosty season, and we got the okay to go ahead with it in late December. But basically the nature of the arrangement was that we would have to, it was very impromptu and very informal, so a lot of stuff we'd have to get together ourselves.
Mhm.
Even though we weren't even technically volunteers. We didn't fill out volunteer forms
Mhm.
or anything. So basically the way it worked was I put a lot of time into arranging the brick enclosure setup. So like I commissioned it for one place and I had a stupid issue with the 3D printing. So I had to like mangle them to get them to close. And it was really dumb. Eventually I made them work. And then I printed another print from the library because like I had an appointment with the library to do 3D printing, but it wasn't until like the 29th of January, which is way too close to the event, and I wanted to do tests. So I tested from the library and the print came out right, and I paid way less. That was really annoying, but I got them set up. So I didn't really have any issue with like getting the things in the enclosures and getting set up. Those all got set up perfectly fine. So as far as Xbox actually went, the things I anticipated to be problems were less the things I knew would be problems ended up being bigger problems than things I assumed would be the biggest problems. So like hardware was not really that much of an issue.
Mm-hmm.
It was more software, like getting the way Xbox handles local profiles is very weird and cumbersome. Doesn't make a lot of sense, and it almost feels as if they weren't assuming people would play local multiplayer. Because the way it works on Xbox is that when you connect a controller, if it's not a proprietary Xbox controller, like with a Brook converter, it will just assume you're on the same profile, and then both players control one profile, and then you need to have someone switch their profile to either a different profile or a guest. And then when you do that, the game, if either of the players switched profile to an opposite profile instead of switching to a guest, the game will tell you it switched profiles and will reset the game. And then when you enter the game, it will make you pick a profile. But at that screen, either player can press the A button and will ask them, but it doesn't say which player is picking. So both players mash A, and then they just pick a profile, and then if they didn't pick the one they picked before, they could pick an opposite profile, and it just loops process. Because they're either both playing again, or the game will say they switched profiles. It's weird.
Weird, yeah.
I think I saw that. I think I saw that briefly on the Handycam streams. Somebody had an issue, and then Sora had to like jump in to figure that out.
Yeah, so it was very hands on deck. If I didn't have the full team, Rusty, Kelly, and myself, I'm not in the business here of like trying to say that it went off without a hitch, because it went off very well considering all things considering, like how risky of a venture with this was and how unproven it was and how big this tournament was. Right? It could have gone a lot worse, but you know, we had basically the first 2 days we had the whole team of people helping people. And then I remember in the hotel room on Thursday by far, which was just a casual day, that was the day we had the biggest roadblocks. And I remember telling Saro, you know, I'm really worried about tomorrow, man. I don't know how it's gonna go. And he was like, you know what? Worst comes to worst, have it both people sign out, reset the Xbox, start it again, and connect with people separately. And then on the actual tournament day, we had significantly fewer issues than Thursday. Like, we only had like one match per pool on average where a group of people had an issue, but every person we eventually either got got their controller working, or they were able to play. A couple people chose to borrow a controller from their friend instead of getting their controller work, and it's like, if they waited a bit, we could have figured it out.
Right.
But the thing about the controller is that almost specific controllers had a bit of an issue. Those mostly being the Quamba Obsidians and the Vitrixes, where they took a bit of fiddling, but they got it up eventually. But those are both the high-powered sticks, right? Yeah. And they had further issues where it was 2 Obsidians, which leads me to believe, or leads us to believe, in alignment with the fact that apparently there was also repeated power issues from last year at this year, and that was the reason So another weird thing was that in the Lilac Ballroom during pools, the lights went out at a couple
Oh,
points. Yeah, the venue like dimmed. We were like, "Oh, what's going on here? What's going on here?" And then they came back in a bit. We were like, "Hey!" And then we kept going. But like, I heard something about JoJo All-Star Battle being canceled.
Damn.
And then apparently they didn't have enough power issues to make it, like, due to power issues it was canceled or something. And then later I saw, like, much later at night, they were able to get it done. Because I remember, like, before pools or whatever, they mentioned, or like in the middle of pools, they mentioned JoJo All-Star Battle is canceled at like 5 p.m. And then I saw at like 12 a.m. congrats to the winner, JoJo All-Star Battle, and then he has medal. So I wonder if they just like postponed it. But I did speak to Alvin Shadow later in the event, and he said that, you know, we tried to get the power issues sorted out, and then the venue got it wrong again, so we had the power issues again. So I wonder if that didn't have, and then somebody at Paradise Arcade was talking to Kelly. He was talking about the Brook converters, and I think Kelly was just kind of conversing about some of the roadblocks we had or didn't have, what went well. And he said something about, like, you know, the broke USBs can cause power issues sometimes. But
Really?
yeah, but despite all that, we had only one when people got playing, it was fine for everyone. Like, just if you were there, just perusing about, people were really enjoying casuals, and casuals are like popping off super hard for Sam Show. Like, there was always people there playing. And yeah, like, there was always people, right until I packed up the converters on Sunday night. There were still two setups going still. So people were having a great time. And then the interesting thing is that Saturday had some certain issues with certain people getting it working, which was exacerbated because, like, the profile switching issue and certain controllers getting some fiddling were both happening at the same time. So that was the thing. But, like, I heard a lot of feedback about how responsive Xbox Series felt, especially from the people that, like, played PS4 local in the earlier days.
Mm-hmm.
They were talking about it, like, you know, how it just, like, feels a lot better for whiff punishing and movement and stuff. And then the interesting thing is that on Saturday and Sunday, which, like, weren't the days when the game was played at tournament, we weren't even really there supervising. But, like, I didn't see any connection issues at all. Like, it looked like people were just walking up and plugging in and going. So I don't know if the players figured out something we didn't, but it looked like the kinks were ironed out.
That's good.
Yeah,
it's not only for tournament setups, right? It's like, it's also to attract people to come and play the game. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of in casual people who haven't played Sam Show, just want to walk up and try the game. And can you imagine every time you do that and you plug in the stick and it doesn't work, you just, all right, fuck it, I'm just not gonna play this game, right? But having that be smoothed out would definitely people actually getting to try the game and make the grow the community, right? So this technical issues like this is a pretty big deal, even just outside the tournament setting.
Yeah, so, you know, it was really important for me to have that 3D printed enclosure set up. I thought about how we were going to do it, and I thought about a system where people sign out converters, but I'm like, that doesn't make a lot of sense outside of the bracket, because what are people going to do? The bracket's only one day, and the console's going to be sitting there, so what are people going to do? Like, to plug in their stuff. And there was one extra setup, so there's 5 total we had running, and one of them was working with DLC and stuff, but it had no converters, and that setup didn't get as much traffic at all. Like, it had a few people playing, but it wasn't. It very clearly had less people interested. The setups with the converters were all popping. Like they were almost always. There was always, most of the time there was 3, and on Sunday later at night there was 2. And then I walked in to the room on Saturday, all 4 setups were going. Well, I'm super happy with how casuals went. It looked really good. And it seemed like outside of a few people that had some issues, most people were pretty happy about it.
Did you see a lot of new players? Just like people, do you talk to anybody who was like, oh, I never played this game and this is really good? Did you get any of that reaction from the casuals?
Well, so I think the newer people don't have as much of a frame of reference. So they can't really tell as much, but I had a few people kind of just in talking about in general conversation. How I can't really see like why is it on Xbox? Not like saying it like confrontationally, but just like asking why you chose, just like because it feels better, because it has a lot lower input lag. And then, but like all the people like like hey, it's Dave and like Vato and stuff that like have played on and off over the years, right? They were talking about Xbox feels so good. It definitely feels better than PSN. And I know a couple people that were like naysaying earlier, and they actually played at the event, and they're like starting to come around. That this feels really good.
Hopefully, I mean, fingers crossed. I don't know. That's like, I think we talked about this in the Discord. It's like, I don't think 120 is going to come to Steam because the kind of hardware you would need to run that is not everyone has that kind of hardware, so they wouldn't. If they were going to do that, it would just be another game edition, but that would divide the community even further. So I don't think they're going to do that. But I was just
I never thought about it before that certain keys might not be capable of.
Yeah, well, but I just imagine if you can bring that to a system outside of Xbox Series S, right? Because it's right now that's unique to that console.
Well, like as far as the Xbox version goes, you don't need a 120 monitor to play that version, right? It just works. It works either way, so I imagine that's not a limiting factor for PC, but like I personally think the reason Enhanced Edition won't come to PS5 and is that it seems like Enhanced Edition was more of like a promotional thing for the Xbox Series.
Okay, I see.
So
it's like a right. It's like a marketing thing, specifically developed for that.
So that's why I personally, I would be I really hope that it does. And if you were looking in the Discord, I was trying to press Kaiser about it, right? And he kept dodging the question. Oh, I don't. Outcome does not seem likely, but I think it would do a lot for Sam's show if it was universally on the modern setups, partially because PS4 just sucks and everybody needs to get rid of it, but like that doesn't mean it's also not necessarily it's gonna be hard to manage this Xbox stuff, and I told Maki and Saro, it's not my goal to misrepresent this just because it's something I want. Like, we have to follow what the community wants, which is why there's a survey linked in this video description. Very Google form that you can fill out, which we have a lot of responses. We have 35, but there's also 98 people registered for FF, and there's a lot of known players that have not filled out the survey yet. So we got a lot of descriptive and fair responses already, but we could use a lot more. So if you entered Frosty and you have not filled that out yet, I would be very appreciative if you did. It's a short survey. It's The long questions are optional. Most of it's just multiple choice, so I'd be very, very appreciative. It will help us a lot in decision making. I'm not saying that, you know, Frosty Xbox is gonna be combo breakers will be on Xbox for sure. You better back us. That's not really how this works, right? It's all play it by ear. Go off what the community wants. So yeah, thanks a lot to everyone who was patient with us, to everyone who gave us a shot. It was a really big undertaking. I think it went off very well, all things considered, and especially huge thanks to all my Xbox Fighters people. Kellyanne, Sorrow, Maki, Frosty's all. I owe you guys the world. I would have never even considered trying this if it wasn't for the rest of you guys. But this was a big deal and we got it done. And I hope it bodes well for the future. And I thank all the players and all my helpers. That was good. Okay, so with that out of the way, I feel like that covers Frosty's pretty well. I feel like 3 hours is a suitable amount of time to cover one event. It was pretty exhaustive. I feel that Frosty's is one of the best events of the year. I hope they'll have us next year for Sam Show. I appreciate a lot that they took a chance on us this year when there's so many events competing for space. If you are considering coming for future years in Sam Show or any other game you play, I would definitely endorse it. I had a lot of fun. It was one of the best events I've ever been at. Big thanks to everyone I met up with and dapped up and said hello to. There's so many people, but it was great to see you guys. Some people I haven't seen in many years. There's some people I haven't even met for the first time. I met them there, so you know, big props to all of you who all make this worth it. I'm really glad I won. Much love. And Inazuma, you better be at
Inazuma
Breaker or the next one. Yes. Yes.
Well, I'm graduating in 2 months, so if I think and I get a job, and I can definitely that's something that I can definitely see myself doing in next year. So,
congratulations on your imminent graduation.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that about covers the Frosty's discussion for tonight. I think that's pretty exhaustive, if I say so myself. So, as far as future plans go, there will be a future episode discussing the rollback open beta test and how we kind of feel about that.
I have a lot to say about that, and especially some of the things I found. It really changes the way I'm thinking about this game. So look forward to that.
It was definitely a treasure trove, so to speak, of unexpected discoveries and funny moments and stuff, and definitely something that is its own episode's worth of content. So look forward to that. To everybody who joined us tonight, thank you for sticking it out. The relevant links will be in the description as always. Give us a like and a subscribe if you like the show. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great night. Enjoy your week.
Good night, everybody.